So I have got a very special guest here in the VINwiki studio today, Greg Porter from Mecum Auctions, who is one of the foremost experts in the United States of vintage cars, especially pre-war European cars. And one of the things that we got talking about and thought might become a decent video is to say, if you had to make a collection of 15 cars over the 150-year span of automotive production, what would that one car per decade collection, money no object, look like? And so I think we're both going to talk a little bit. This is totally off the cuff. We're kind of making it up as we go, but we'll go backwards by decades. So let's just say we start now, which will be 2020 and newer. What would your pick be?
McLaren Speedtail.
Ooh, I like that. I mean, it certainly represents a good moment in the Ultimate Series definition of what a modern McLaren looks like.
Looks good from any angle. Like...
It's a little Cybertruck-ish from the direct profile, if I'm honest with you, but I could see that. I think I'd have to go with a Valkyrie. I think what that represents in terms of, where we're at with cars is pretty wonderful. Too early to tell if a Jesko Absolute is the answer there, but I think if it was one car, I think I'd do a Ferrari SP3. I think it's the most beautiful car that they have done this millennium.
Pretty good choice.
Now, if we go back into the 20-teens, you got obviously the hypercar holy trinity of LaFerrari P1 918. You can't go wrong with any of those. Although I think that would be the era where I do my Veyron. Rather than going into the 2000s, I would buy a Super Sport, and so world speed record car, I would go with that in the 2010s.
I'm going to go with the McLaren P1, but that's because I remember one of the first auctions I was working at, we had one, and I kind of fell in love with it. And so I was like, okay, I get that. So that's what I'm going to go with. So I'm going to be two McLarens, but...
Hey, there might be a third McLaren coming at some point.
Might be, yeah.
That's it. So
actually, there is.
I would say that, once we get to the 2000s, you've got the Carrera GT, you got the Ferrari Enzo. I would get an MC12.
I'm actually going to go with Ferrari Enzo.
Okay. All right. Well, I think, yes, that was such a huge moment for people our age that fell in love with cars in such a fashion. It just doesn't really get any cool. You'd be perfectly right to select a Carrera GT or a Veyron there, I think. But to me, an MC12,
and for me, an Enzo,
$4 million.
That's what I'd go for.
All right. And is it possible to not do an F1 in the 90s?
Not really.
No. I mean, F50 is wonderful, but a 993 GT1 I could love, but I couldn't avoid doing an F1.
No, I could not avoid doing F1.
All right. The 80s are more competitive. You got obviously an F40, 959.
I'm for a 959 because of the technology in the 959.
Okay.
In the 1980s, the technology was so mind-boggling that I would regret it the second I went to service it. But I would go with a 959.
There's no reason not to. But it's also a moment where you could do a CTR1, a Yellowbird. You could do a Hammer, depending on your tastes. There are a lot of other fun 80s cars.
Very
you can do a DeLorean. I mean, depending on where you want to go. But if we're talking generally a high-performance race car supercar.
Limited budget.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to get an LM. We're going to spend $35 million. And
we're going to spend a lot.
That's it, yeah. So lots of good fun there. And it's going to be interesting to see in Monterey what the F40 LM does, which will, I think it's a $10 million car, maybe. But if it does 12, 13, 15, it could be nuts.
Yeah, I might set the market pace a little differently.
Now, the 70s is tough.
The 70s is tough.
Because, there are obviously some great cars, Ferrari Daytona, things of that nature, even a 246 Dino. I would entertain an American car there, because there are some super fun American stuff, but I'm more likely to go American in the 60s.
Well, I have to plug the Cannonball Dino a little bit.
Aha, yes.
Because that car is coming to Monterey. I'm going to be interested to see what that car does. But if it had to be just for me, I'd probably go with a 73 Porsche RS.
That's a great
Just because it's a great car.
Yes.
It's, pretty much one of the greatest cars Porsche ever built.
For sure. Now, what did Aston make in the early 70s in the DB series? Was it a DB6?
DB6, really early 70s. They kind of went away from them then. And there was a couple other weird V8 Astons. DB6 Vantage is a good choice because you actually would fit in a DB6 Vantage.
Yes, which is lovely. But I think if it had to be one car, for me, it's the Yates Gurney Daytona that won the first competitive Cannonball.
Yep, that would be up there. That's a great car.
Now, in the 60s, The, big money choice is obviously a Ferrari GTO.
Very tough.
But if I was going to buy a 250 Ferrari, it would be in the 50s. So I'm going to forego the most valuable car of all time for most of its life in a 250 GTO. I'm going to say an early Miura makes all the sense in the world. A late Miura into the 70s is a wonderful choice. But I think in the 60s, I think it would be my American car for the bunch, whether it's a Shelby Daytona, a Cobra GT350. It's something in there, I think.
For me, if it's unlimited money, it would be a Daytona Cobra.
Okay.
I spent so much of my time at the Simeone Foundation when I was working for Bonham's Auctioneers of looking at that Daytona that is their Daytona number one, that I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's that car. But a GT350 is also a great example of a 60s car. GT40, that's up there.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm going American in the 1960s. Even though Europe was making some great things, I'm going American.
And I don't think we're going to buy an Uhlenhaut coupe for the 50s, but I think I'd buy a pontoon fender Testarossa.
And I can see that. I'm actually going to go a different direction. In the 1950s, if I could choose a car to own, I would actually, and I had an unlimited budget, I would buy a great C-Type Jaguar. That's because I'm also a bit of a vintage Jag mechanic, and that is a very easy car for me to live with. I can do everything on it, and I can do every event in the world with it, and I can not throw inches at it because I understand how it works. But that's me.
Now, the 40s are a little bit of a blind spot for me. They're really a blind spot for the entire automotive industry due to the conclusion of the war.
If I was going to have this collection, I would actually buy a 1942 Willys Jeep.
Okay.
And that's because
that is a curveball and a half.
It is basically the car that helped save the world in the 1940s. Kind of fun to drive around, just don't have to go very fast, but it's like, it is a curveball and a half, but you can't not look at that car and think, 1942, things are bad in the world, but this is going to save the world. So that is what I'm choosing.
What is the best Mercedes of the 40s?
Best Mercedes of the 40s. That's actually very tricky. There was the Mercedes-Benz Uhlenhaut that came out right after World War II. They were around. There were some great Mercedes Grand Prix cars when they were kind of going back to racing. But yeah, there were all sorts of kind of interesting cars. But the Gullwing didn't come around until the 50s.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to stick with my guns. And, even though it's kind of, lowest value car in the whole thing, I'd be like, yeah, going for it.
What year was the Uhlenhaut coupe?
Uhlenhaut, that was early 50s.
Oh, I thought so.
Because that is basically a Formula One car with a coupe body on it.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
And there's the Sterling Moss car, but
722. That's 1950s.
Yep.
That would be that's a great one. I actually knew a guy who drove that car.
That's right.
So that would be up there.
Amazing. I think if I'm for the 1940s, I'm going to go at 1940, which was the final production year of the Bugatti Type 57, and you get a very pretty car.
You could be a very, very, very pretty car. Then 1930s, there's tons of choices.
There are.
You name it, there's choices.
I like an SSK there.
Actually, they stopped making them in 1931. Well, you could technically choose them.
Right.
Because 1930.
They're Speed 6s still, right?
Late Speed 6s, yes.
Yeah, so if you...
Blower Bentley, 1931.
Okay, well, I mean, I love that. It's essentially, I'm buying a late 1920s car in my 1930s slot, I think.
I'm actually going to go for a true 1930s car.
Okay.
I'm going to go for a 1932 or 33 8-cylinder Alpha long wheelbase Le Mans car, preferably.
Okay, preferably. Why wouldn't it be a Le Mans car?
Yeah, yes. That would be what I would go for in the 30s, because those cars remain competitive throughout the 30s and they're just fantastic.
I'd want an SSK and a special Bentley and an 8C. I mean, that you want all of them.
Yes, you do. That is the trick when you get to the really old stuff, is there's so many great things that it's like, okay, well, I want that, I want that, I want that.
Right.
But if you had to choose one from 1930s, I'm going with the 8C Alpha.
I'll take my blower Bentley so that I can have my SSK in the 20s.
That's actually a good choice. Then in 1920s, I'm going with a 1929 Bentley Speed 6. I'm a Bentley guy. I've been a Bentley guy for years. That's what I'm going for. Hopefully one with an original body, but those are practically unobtainium. So that's that. And then we go to the teens, which I do differently because I do 1915 to 1905.
Because we're only going back to 1895.
Yes, we're going back to 1895.
Got it. Okay. So between 1915 and 1920, what's your car?
Really, there wasn't a lot of good things made. That's because World War I was going on. Pretty much everything got kind of sedate and kind of boring. There wasn't a lot of money to build anything. But if I had to choose from 1915 to 1920, I'd choose a Silver Ghost Rolls Royce.
That makes good sense.
If I had to choose in that period, I'd be like, yeah, Silver Ghost.
And what year would the Millers be?
Millers are 1920s. But even though I admire the Millers, I never really desire to own one because you can't drive them on the road.
I don't think anybody cares at this juncture, but it would be unpleasant.
I'm that kind of guy. Like, I like to go on tours and events.
Sure.
So a 1920, like, even though I would love to own one, I would kind of always be like, I can use it at like 2 events a year.
That's fair. That's fair.
I would be like, no, I want to drive this more.
I think the Rolls is the answer there. I mean, it was such a significant car in the lifespan of Rolls-Royce as a company. And that's when you're going to get a better one, even though they're all solid cars.
Yeah, and some people in Rolls-Royce circles will still argue that the Silver Ghost is the best car they ever made.
Yeah, I think there is an argument for that. Now, after the turn of the century, I don't know, how cool would it be to have the Spiker that ran Peking to Paris in 1907?
That would be very cool to have that car.
I'd love that.
That would be the Spiker. That's another car that they made the modern ones, but a lot of people don't realize that the history of that company goes way back.
Way back.
And, you know, if you ever watch the movie Genevieve from the 1960s, the star of that, one of the co-stars is a 1905 Spiker. Even though it technically shouldn't be on the Brighton Run because it's a 1905 car. But they now allow it on the Brighton Run because it's had that role in that movie.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So what do you pick there?
In that area, I would pick a big horsepower Mercedes or a Mercedes Simplex. Those are incredible things, and they go 60 miles an hour, and you can just... However, there is a downside to that. If you go on the Brighton Run, the bigger the engine, the later in the morning you start.
Which is
so hot. Yeah. So if you get a bigger car, you might be like, I'm going to be in Brighton really fast, and then you get stuck behind a lot of O2 Oldsmobiles who aren't going fast. So there's a downside that you have to be aware of.
Got it. Okay. And then in the 1890s.
1890s, there's so many like peculiar things. I definitely want some kind of steam car, but I don't know exactly what it would be. But I definitely want like some kind of early steam automobile.
Yeah, good old Stanley.
Actually, I don't even think they
weren't starting yet.
There were so many car manufacturers. When a lot of people don't realize that when automobiles came to be, pretty much everyone on the face of the planet tried to start making a car.
Right.
And some made it and some didn't. Actually, a lot didn't. So I would go for a very, very early Panhard, which is a French, very advanced for its time period. And the only place I've ever seen cars from that early in the United States is actually in Cleveland in the Crawford Museum, which if you ever have a chance to see that museum, go there because they have one of the best collections of really, really early cars that you're going to see in America.
Amazing. Well, I'll trust your judgment in that era because you are the expert. But let us know in the comments what you'd have picked in any of these age gaps. But I always appreciate the discussion.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Thanks for coming. If you get a ticket, the first thing you should do is text a picture of it to 305-305. That will get the ticket clinic on your case immediately. You'll be facing costly fines, risks of suspension, possible jail time, points on your license, higher insurance premiums, and a lot of bad things that they can help you to avoid. You can also find them at the link in the description below, but the Ticket Clinic is a nationwide law firm with brick and mortar offices in Georgia, Florida, and California, but they've got attorneys everywhere, and that's what's most important because a local attorney will know exactly how the local laws work, know the people who are in charge, and get you the best outcome possible. So text a picture of your ticket to 305-305 or click the link in the description below to fight your ticket with the Ticket Clinic.